Okay, 3, 2, 1, let's jam. 3 days after getting the Bronco, and the first time on the highway, my wife had the misfortune of getting a rock chip in the windshield. I always repair these myself, so I thought this might make a good video. There are a few types of repair kits out there. The one with those spider-like legs, and the kind that I'm using that has a pedestal. This is the only kind I've ever used, and it's always worked really well, so no reason to change. It also hasn't mattered what brand I've used, as they've all been identical in function and result. All these kits come with the following basic parts: a plastic pedestal with double-sided adhesive pad that will fit over the chip, resin to fill the chip, a syringe that will apply both vacuum and pressure to the resin, and a plastic square that will cure the resin in sunlight. I started by cleaning the area around the chip really well, which I didn't show, of course. I used a little isopropyl alcohol, but a glass cleaner like Windex will work too. You want to make sure it's super clean. You also want to check to make sure there isn't any loose bits of glass in the center of the pit. If the kit comes with a push pin, you can use this to check. I use an X-Acto knife blade here. When you're done prepping the area, peel off one side of the adhesive circle and center the opening over the pit. The tab on the adhesive pad should be oriented facing up or toward your car's roof. Peel off the other side of the adhesive liner and apply the pedestal, orienting the tab on it with the tab on the adhesive pad. Apply pressure all around it to make sure it's seated completely. Take your time here. It's super important that you have a tight seal all around, or this just won't work. Open the resin tube and add most of it into the pedestal. Save the tube, as you'll need to save a little resin, maybe a drop or two, for later. With the syringe plunger fully depressed, firmly push it into the pedestal. Make sure it's in really good, and then slowly retract the syringe until the lower notch engages the spring. In this step, you're applying vacuum, which will pull air out of the cracks, allowing the resin to fill them. You're going to leave the syringe in this position for a while. You can refer to your specific kit's instructions, but typically 20 minutes should do it. Here's the thing though, the resin isn't going to just cure while you wait, so there's no harm in letting it sit longer. If at this point you don't think you've got enough resin in the pedestal, pull out the syringe, add more, and start the vacuum over. It won't hurt. Once you've cured this resin later though, there's no going back. To see if this is working, you can try to look from the inside of your windshield. You should not only see bubbles in the resin, but some will be moving around under the vacuum. When the time is up, you'll need to remove the syringe. While holding the pedestal, carefully remove the syringe from it using a twisting, pulling motion. You want to make sure you don't break the pedestal seal with the window. Now, retract the syringe's plunger all the way and insert the syringe back into the pedestal. Depress the plunger until the higher notch is engaged with the spring. Again, you can reference your specific kit's instructions, but typically you will leave it in this position for approximately 20 minutes. More time under pressure will not hurt anything either. This is what the resin looks like now while it's under pressure. When the time is up, remove the syringe from the pedestal. Remove the pedestal and adhesive circle from the window. Most kits should come with a razor blade, so you can use this to get it started. Get your resin tube and apply a little bit to the center of the pit. There's still going to be quite a bit left over on the windshield from earlier, but you want to make sure you get some centered on the chip. Then place a UV curing square on the resin. Some people would say to squeegee it at this point, but I've never found this necessary. Just push out any air in between it and the windshield with your finger. The resin will only cure when it's exposed to UV light, so unless you have a UV flashlight laying around, make sure the repair area is in the sun. In my case, I had to move the Bronco outside for this last step. If it's sunny out, this only needs to sit for about 15 minutes. If it's cloudy out, 1 hour is usually recommended. But again, letting it sit out longer than these times won't hurt, so I always let it sit in the sunlight for about 30 minutes. Peel the curing square off using a razor blade to get under it if necessary. Now use that same razor blade to carefully scrape off all the cured resin remaining on the surface. The resin did its job and filled in the cracks, which is the most important part so that the chip doesn't spread. Overall, I think it looks pretty good. If you look at the windshield in the right light, you can still just see where the pit was. It always seems to look like a little small speck of dust. I don't think I've ever seen the chip disappear completely all the times I've done it. Before I started doing it myself, I was paying to have it done by experts, and I still saw the speck whenever they finished. So I believe this is as good as it gets. When you're behind the wheel though, it's pretty much invisible. Now, here's a trick that I found to save money on future repairs. Keep your pedestal and syringe. Clean them. Go on Amazon and buy some resin and adhesive circles. We'll provide some links to some good options in the description below. The resin is really cheap and you'll get a lot more than what was originally in your kit. The resin should also come with multiple UV curing squares. The adhesive circles can be folded in half and a small hole cut in them. Then throw everything in a Ziploc bag. You now have a kit that can be used over and over, saving you a lot of money in repairs. That's what I do. Well, I hope some of you found this helpful. See you later.